Horror story. Beneath the graveyard moon. What happens when you step into a graveyard under the bright light of a full moon? Are the whispers you hear just the wind? Or could they be restless spirits calling out for help? Tonight, we bring you a chilling tale of courage, mystery, and the supernatural. Brace yourself for the haunting story of a girl who dared to uncover the truth hidden beneath the graveyard moon. In a small, quiet village surrounded by dark forests and fog, there was an old graveyard that no one dared to enter. The villagers believed it was cursed. They said strange shadows moved between the tombstones at night, and eerie whispers filled the air, especially when the full moon was shining brightly. People in the village avoided the place, especially on nights when the moon was full and its pale light bathed the graveyard in an almost magical glow. No one dared to challenge the stories or the warnings. No one except for Rhea. Rhea was a curious and brave 16-year-old girl who had always loved listening to spooky stories. She never believed them, though Rhea was sure they were just tales to scare children. One evening, as she and her friends gathered around a bonfire, sharing scary stories, her best friend Nina dared her to spend the night in the graveyard. Everyone laughed, thinking Rhea would never accept the challenge, but Rhea, full of courage and curiosity, immediately agreed. "I'll do it," Rhea said confidently. "I'll spend the night in the graveyard, and I'll prove there's nothing to be afraid of." The group laughed, but Rhea's mind was made up. She was determined to uncover the truth behind the village's most feared place, the story. Later that night, as the full moon rose high in the sky, Rhea set off toward the graveyard. The village was quiet, and a cold breeze whispered through the trees as she walked along the narrow path leading to the graveyard. The trees above her seemed to bend low, their branches stretching towards her, as if they were trying to warn her. The graveyard was surrounded by a tall, rusty iron gate. As Rhea pushed it open, it creaked loudly, sending a chill down her spine. The moonlight bathed the graveyard in an eerie glow. The tombstones stood like silent sentinels, some leaning to one side, others half covered with moss. The air was thick with silence, and Rhea's footsteps echoed in the stillness. Her heart raced with excitement and fear. She had come to prove that the stories were nothing more than legends. But now that she was here, she couldn't deny the strange feeling in the air. She walked further into the graveyard, holding her flashlight tightly. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing more tombstones, old mausoleums, and a large oak tree standing in the middle of the graveyard. Rhea found a spot under the oak tree and sat down, trying to calm her racing heart. Everything was quiet except for the sound of her breathing and the distant hoot of an owl. But then, as she sat there, she began to hear something else. Faint whispers. At first, she thought it was just the wind, but the whispers grew clearer and more distinct. "Help us. Set us free," they seemed to say. Rhea's heart skipped a beat. She looked around, but there was no one in sight. The whispers came from every direction, as though the air itself was speaking to her. Rhea stood up, her curiosity getting the best of her. She followed the whispers, walking deeper into the graveyard. The path led her to an old mausoleum at the far end. The mausoleum was ancient, its stone walls cracked and weathered by time. The door was slightly open, and a strange light seemed to glow from within. Rhea hesitated for a moment, but then took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the mausoleum was dark and cold. Her flashlight flickered as she walked in, illuminating old cobwebs and dusty shelves. The smell of dampness filled the air. The only thing that stood out was a large portrait on the wall, a painting of a beautiful woman with sad, sorrowful eyes. Rhea recognized her. This was the woman from the village stories. The villagers said she had been accused of witchcraft and was locked away in this mausoleum for centuries. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, and the air around her seemed to shift. The woman from the painting appeared before Rhea, her figure glowing faintly in the dark. She floated in the air, looking at Rhea with pleading eyes. "Please, help me," the ghost said, her voice soft but urgent. "I've been trapped here for centuries. Only you can break the curse. Please, set me free." Rhea's heart raced. She was terrified, but she couldn't ignore the ghost's desperate plea. She stepped closer, her voice shaking. "How can I help you?" she asked. The ghost pointed to a stone crypt in the corner of the mausoleum. "Inside the crypt," she said, "lies the key to my freedom." Rhea walked cautiously toward the crypt. It was made of heavy stone, and the lid was cracked open. With trembling hands, she pushed the lid up. Inside, she found a small, ornate box covered in strange symbols. The moment her fingers touched it, the whispers around her grew louder, more urgent. The ghost urged her to open the box, but she warned Rhea to be brave. "The release will be overwhelming," she said, "but you must open it. Only then can we be free." Rhea hesitated for only a moment before she opened the box. As soon as the lid was removed, a brilliant light filled the mausoleum. The air seemed to come alive with energy. Shadows swirled around her, rising up into the light. The whispers turned into cries of joy and freedom. It was as if the spirits had been waiting for this moment for centuries. The ghost of the woman smiled as her figure began to fade. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of gratitude. "You've set me free." The light grew brighter, and in an instant, the ghost was gone. The mausoleum was no longer cold or dark. It felt peaceful, as though a heavy weight had been lifted. As dawn's first light began to break through the trees, Rhea walked out of the graveyard. The eerie atmosphere that had once filled the place was gone. The graveyard now felt calm, even beautiful. Flowers began to bloom around the tombstones, and the air smelled fresh. The whispers had vanished, replaced by the sounds of birds singing in the trees. Over the next few weeks, the villagers noticed the change. The graveyard, once feared and avoided, became a peaceful place. People began to visit, paying respects to their loved ones without fear. Rhea, however, knew the real reason for the change. Months later, Rhea returned to the mausoleum. She stood in front of the painting of the woman. It had changed. The woman's sad, sorrowful eyes were now filled with peace, and a gentle smile played on her lips. As Rhea turned to leave, she heard a soft voice in the wind. "You are never alone. We will always be with you." Rhea smiled. She knew that she had helped set the spirits free, and in doing so, had made an unbreakable connection with them. This story teaches us that sometimes, a little courage and kindness can bring peace to the darkest places. What would you have done if you were in Rhea's place? Do you believe in spirits and curses? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. And if you have your own ghost stories or mysteries to share, feel free to send them to us. We'd love to feature them in our future videos. Until next time, stay curious and stay brave.